I am Queen Agaba. Nigeria's economic reality is characterized by a combination of strengths and challenges. On one hand, Nigeria is blessed with abundant natural resources, particularly oil, which has historically been the main driver of our economy. As a result, Nigeria is considered one of Africa's largest economies and has the potential for sub-stational growth, economic growth. However, Nigeria also faces several economic challenges, one of which is its heavy dependence on oil revenues, which makes the economy vulnerable to fluctuations in oil prices. This dependence has contributed to a lack of diversification in the economy, limiting opportunities for other sectors to thrive. Inflation also remains a persistent concern, with the cost of goods and services increasing at a relatively high rate. This, which obviously has eroded the purchasing power of citizens, makes it even more difficult for people to afford basic necessities. I'm joined by my guest, Mr. John Ochai, who is a financial analyst, to discuss further the prevailing economy of Nigeria and the implications for Nigerians. Many thanks for joining me on the program, sir.
Thank you for having me here.
I would want us to take a quick break. When we return, we would delve deep into the conversation. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for joining us. And if you've just joined us, this is Business Point live in the nation's capital, Abuja. And I just introduced my guest, Mr. John Ochai, who is a financial analyst. And he'll be talking to us about Nigeria's prevailing economy and the implications for citizens. Thank you once again for joining me on the program, sir.
Thank you for having me here.
I would like to hear from you the state of Nigeria's economy, and then what are the challenges and issues that we're currently facing and has brought us here.
All right, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, sitting here in this global TV discussing Nigeria prevailing economic issues and the reality, and then the ripple effect on the citizen. First and foremost, Nigeria is not different from other climes. It's not different from other sure. And every society, when it comes to economic application, they have different view towards it. And then I think one of the most challenging issues that we have around our economy in Nigeria is because we are unable to define or bring a model that suits the Nigerian. And we continue to apply what has been sold to us over time. And then because of that, we could not be able to come out from the economic quagmire that we continue to experience year in, year out, and that makes the citizen not to have a better fair share of the economy. And that is exactly why we have this kind of lingering problem. But be as it may, Nigeria right now, economic-wise, it's not healthy, because if you look at inflation, it's on the high rising. If you see the food inflation, it's on the hard rising. And then when you look at the difference of the effects between dollars and Nigeria and other currencies all over the world, most especially the euro, and then the pound sterling, you can see the difference between those currencies and Nigeria. And then it's not healthy when you have inflation around the corner. We have the Naira is being depreciated in the money market, and at the same time, you are having excessive increment on your goods and services in the market, in the economic. By the time you assess and be able to x-ray and bring the economic aggregations within the fiscal year, I think with the positions we are, with the indicators of the economy as it is right now, I believe we are not really doing well. But with it, Buhari spent for 8 years, and then Tinubu just spent 20% of his 4 years. So we are looking towards where he will bring technocrats on board, and then brings expatriates who really understand the economy, that will be able to initiate an idea that will be able to take us from where we are to where we are expecting to be.
Okay. I want to know how Nigeria's economy has been affected by issues like oil price, food prices, and all that, and then the exchange rate exactly.
All right. There are, we have to look at it from perspective. Let's say two perspectives, the positive and then the negative perspective. For instance, well, we have two things that could skyrocket or change the stratas of pains and agonies of a citizen when they are not benefiting from the system we are supposed to benefit. For instance, when Nigeria is on a mono economy, which we solely depends on oil, isn't it? And then you have one side that the OPEC regulates the number of barrels you produce in a day, and then determine how much you sell those barrels. And because you don't have the market that will be able to sell those barrels yourself, so you are now caught in the web, that if the OPEC did not determine your market, you won't have a surviving major determining the market yourself. That is one. And that is why when oil is not producing in such a way that we're able to, cushion the effect, there will be a ripple effect on the citizen. What that means is that when two elephants are fighting, who suffer? The grassroots, isn't it? It's the grass that suffer. Meaning, if the economy of a nation who solely depends on oil is not surviving through that strata, and then there is no diversifications on how you're able to also bring other channels of resources to augment your existing resources, is a problem. And over time, right from Goodluck Jonathan, right from Buhari, we are talking about diversification. And those diversifications were in shambles, in the sense that those things that we thought we could do to ensure it supports the oil that we have, to make sure we are not the only depending on oil, but having a different diversification that will augment the oil. We have channeled so many resources towards that direction. It's not forthworking. Not because it shouldn't have worked, it should have worked ordinarily. It's because those who are saddled with responsibility to be responsible to the citizen are not responsible to the citizen. And that is one of the factors that takes us back to make sure that makes us not to be having economic benefit or the welfare of the citizen to be repositioned the way we are expecting it to be. The second factor, in the sense that we have been having experience from the insecurity in our society, that if you look at banditry is around the corner. Even the FCT, we have had experience where people, bandits went to people's houses, kidnap them, take them to unknown places. And that's one of the factors that affect economy, because the situation whereby the people are not well protected, when there is a phobia, when people are insecure, and when people are always afraid, it doesn't open up for a certain investor to come in. And when investors are not coming, and then we are not commanding direct investment, isn't it, into the system, into the economy, automatically is also one of the problems. Because when there is no much money in the system to balance the equation and balance the aggregations of the economy for the better distribution and the equity, then automatically the citizen will also be affected. And thirdly, we have been having some assorted policies when it comes to monetary policy. And then during Emefiele, when he was a CBN governor, what do you expect experience? During his time, he has different FS exchange rate. Education have different rates, government have different rates, companies have different rates, industry have different rates also as well. Then, Naira has always been depreciated, because as at the time Goodluck Jonathan was in power, if I'm not mistaken, I stand to be corrected, what was the experience in the exchange rate? I think it was hovering between 197 and then to 200. At the end of the day, when his successor came in, that is Buhari, there was a pressure on him to devalue the currency. And immediately when the money was devalued, what happened? There was an exchange rate hovering between 495, 500 now, as it is right now. In the official rate, I think the dollar is being, so the exchange rate is between 750 something. I can't really place what it is today. And then when you go to the parallel market, what you experience is hovering between 1,400 and something thereabout. And you can have an economy that you don't have a control environment determining what will happen in the next minute. What that means is that when dollars skyrocket from that amount that I have mentioned to the present amount that we are seeing, it means even you in the studio, if you are having 1 million in your account, automatically the 1 million depreciated to 500,000, because the value for your money has already reduced, and it has an implication for every citizen. For instance, now, if you go to the market, everything has been skyrocketing. Meaning, you go to market yesterday, what you buy yesterday, today is different. And today what you buy you cannot determine, though you are not sure of coming back to that market tomorrow, and you are expecting the price tag to be as the same. So it's already a problem to the society, and it's plunged pain and agony back to the people. For instance, there is a few project that was just handling. So a bag of cement was 5,500. Just 2 days later, I came back to the market to purchase and add more cement. Lo and behold, how much was it? 7,500 naira. You can't live in a society and you want to better the welfare of your citizen. And when you wake up in the morning, you don't know how and when things should change. And then the people who saddle with the responsibility, they are not communicating. Already there is a bridge in the gap between the citizen and the leaders. And once such continue to happen, what you experience? The citizen at the receiving end, receiving the pains, the agony of what we are experiencing as it is in the society now. So in other words, when you increase fuel, just the way price of PMX has been increased, premium motor spirit was increased by the president. The ripple effect, we know what it is. Things that you used to buy for, let's say, 1,000 skyrockets double to 2,000. And the same thing unequivocally in dollar, when dollar determines the phone we use, it determines the car, it determines the items you have in the studio, it determines the value that you gain in the market. And once things are done, the citizens we are not truly prepared for it. Even if you don't complain in the social media, if you don't complain in the radio station, television station, because some of us are handicapped, we are not viable or we are not privileged, does not mean that, yes, they are not expressing their trauma elsewhere. It's just because the voice was not heard, because their voice is voiceless at that moment. So in other words, coming back to the questions and what you have said, yes, it has a lot of implication. I think in the process I said about insecurity, inflations, and also those things have a ripple effect on the citizen, because it is the citizen that bear the brunt. And once the economic is not healthy, automatically the citizen also will be sick.
Many thanks. I would go back to, you just mentioned insecurity and inflation, and I would want us to talk about corruption. But before then, you mentioned policies. You just said that, there are some policies that are put in place by governments to ensure that, this inflation tones down. Can you take me into some of these policies that are put in place or implemented by the government to ensure that,
All right, there are two basic policies that change a society within the fiscal year. We call fiscal policy and monetary policy. Fiscal policy determines the aggregations of the economy within the fiscal year, and that is why the National Assembly have to pass a budget within those fiscal year to ensure they don't run over the budget, and then they were able to place a value to the budget. Then the monetary policy, CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, known as CBN, the Apex Bank, are responsible for the policy, and that is why they have a MPC meeting to ensure that this has the interest rate ratio, and then the recapitalizations and all that. And they do that because they are the one to x-ray the monetary issues around the economy. And these are the determinant factor. And there are other factors, but these are few ones that determine on how the economy should be run, whether the economy will be healthy or not. And I think from the fiscal policy, I think we have misapplied those policies over time, because you cannot eat the cake that you don't have. And then what you should do as the leaders of every society who want the better society and what the better welfare for the citizen, for the equity redistribution, for the welfare, for the benefit of every household and every other firm, other unities of that are involved. What do? they are saddled with responsibility to make sure they think about the investment that is healthy for the country. Then they will go into the country to do such investment. For instance, if you look at when President Tinubu stepped in to the power, you can see all the, there are a lot of things hovering of his incoming. And at the same time, when he came, automatically, when he knew as a president, he has the requisite power, he has the veto power. The Buhari regime removed subsidy. But according to the information put out to the public, the removal of subsidy will run concurrently for 3 months. The president is not supposed to come up and say, today, since I've been sworn in as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the subsidy is hereby removed. It might be just a 2-word, but it has an implication that cannot be forgotten in the heart of those who call themselves citizens that are even voted into power. Reason is because fuel is the reason why goods and services skyrocket, because fuel is a determinant factor that increase goods and services in the market. And immediately when the subsidy was declared removed, the filling station definitely will increase the PMS pump price, you know. And once that is done, the women in the market, the men in the market, the business vendor out there automatically will hike their prices. That is entangled with the realities of the economy as at that moment. It's also have fall back to the citizen. And at the same time, transport fare will also skyrocket. We have a reason where we were traveling from here to Lagos by road through the transport provider. What was the experience? We were paying 10,000. Immediately when the subsidies were removed, how much was the fee? From here to Lagos, some were paying 25 to 30,000 depending on the company. And then the goods coming in from Lagos to Abuja. Imagine when the goods is brought in from Lagos to Abuja, what do you expect? So if, for instance, that shoes are being sold for like 30,000 naira or 50, 70,000 naira, the expected ends of it is that that goods that I have mentioned will just jacked up from that 30,000 to 60,000 because it increases, isn't it, to double, meaning that if goods that have been sold for 50% now being sold for 100%, salaries are not increased. Your source of income is not increased. Even you in the studio at that moment, your salary is not even increased, isn't it? And what is the same market that you are going tomorrow? Meaning, if you have the money that you are being paid as your wages or salary, when you go to the market, you cannot satisfy your wants on needs from that particular period of time. So that are policies that have been applied that is not good. Then when you look at the concurrent list and the capital project, isn't it? In most of the concurrent list, the budget every year in and out, you understand, is higher, meaning almost all the money we realize that we are supposed to put into the economy to make the economy healthy, we use it to pay for all inventories, salaries, and what have you. And these are the policies that are not good. So I think what we should do over time is that before we, move to implement some certain policy, we should bring expatriates into the system, seeking for their advice. And once the advice is given, then they will be able to come out with a provisions of those knowledge they have in their disposal to the government. Because sometimes politicians may not be, advantageous when it comes to some certain information. And that is why consultations need to be done, expatriates need to be brought in to x-ray the problem and issues so that it will be able to enable them have a better position before they apply those policies that they need to apply. Then the second factor, we were there before the election. Nigeria were not giving orientation. All of a sudden, the former CBN governor came up and said, we are going total cashless. And at the end of the day, what do we experience? Money was owed, bank refused to give money. And mind you, Nigeria economy is cash economy, not cashless economy. Because the fintech has not even been wired to satisfy the technology input where we are trying to migrate into. I can tell you for a fact, without fear of favor, we don't have a central data that harmonize all our data. And that is why when you go to road safety, they have their data. When you go to a national identity card, under government, they have their data. And the CBN came with their data, and that is why you are being compared to have your BVN, isn't it? So that instead of them to harmonize those central data, to get those information, to enable them do the needful and bring the technology that will enable us have those opportunities the way the developed world has those opportunities and they are operating. And such operating models, we don't have it. And all of a sudden, you don't think about the people who are in the rural area. You don't think about those who they are illiterate of those things that you have mentioned. There is no viabilities of time for them to have the understanding of how this thing is being operated and the model that could be used. And there was no proper orientation. And all of a sudden, you say from this month to so month, then we will go to cashless, there will be no money in the economy. What happened? We were using our own currency to buy our own currency. Imagine you go to buy your own currency to the extent, to the fact that we were buying 1,000 naira for 400 naira. What that means, you are taking your citizen back to extreme poverty. Having 1,000, I cannot have access to that 1,000. I have to divide that 1,000 equivocally twice of my value of my money, my hard-earned money, just for me to have access to. At the end of the policy became a shamble policy that to the extent now in Nigeria government we are having two currencies operating at the same time. That we don't even know which of which that we are going to eliminate from the money market. To the extent today, the Supreme Court will say, hold on to this first, let the government sit and analyze on how to take the old money from the market. There's okay, the money we have in circulation is not enough. So let's leave the two currencies to move parallelly on pending when. And even till now, the CBN is not communicating to the citizen to bridge the gap. The Federal Ministry of Finance is not communicating. Even the SA to the president, saddled with all currency matter, are not even speaking. And as we are just moving, floating in the economy like off-headed chicken that have no direction. So until those policies are checkmated and people's head begin to roll, until if that did not happen, then automatically we will continue to remain in this quagmire that we are experiencing as a nation in our economy.
Now, we hope that heads don't roll. We sincerely hope that we don't get to that point where heads will roll. Now, as regards communications and then policies, recently the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos, ordered that the prices of goods and items in the market be fixed under 7 days as a suit filed by Femi Falana, SAN. What do you make of this? This it might be a communication to say that, okay, they're putting in efforts to ensure that these things happen within 7 days. What do you make of this order that has been given? What are your takes? What do you see? What are the implications of this? Do you think that this is feasible owing to the current inflation rate in the country?
I respect the court and I respect their judgment because they are saddled with responsibility to interpret. But sometimes when we interpret the law, is that the reality? We have had so many cases that have been interpreted and a judgment was given. Does the citizen obey? Any law that the citizen doesn't obey, that law becomes aberrations. I'm not a lawyer, so I won't speak from the perspectives of the law. For instance, we were in this country where Nigeria, Naira, we were crying then when they put out a policy that if any person step on Naira note, or if any person spend Naira and spray it, the person will head to jail. And we have seen it's different cases where money was spent, money was mishandled, and at the end of the day, no one was taken to a prison. And that makes people living in a banana island, meaning people can misbehave, there will be anarchy, chaos, and there is nothing that can be done about it. Yes, Femi Falana is a son and is a man that I have respected so much. And I believe for him suing the Lagos State government, the federal government, yes. Thank you very much for that. They said suing federal government that the price of goods to be fixed. The question that I need to ask is the Nigerian market is an open market or is a determinant market? Nigerian market is an open market. You can't fix the price of goods and services because the government is not subsidizing those products. A product that is not subsidized by government, how can government fix it? Is it possible? For instance now, let me come in from this direction. I traveled to Lagos, buy, let's say, this phone, 100,000 naira. And I put the cost of my transportation, the cost of my shop, and then the cost of operation. I would divide it based on those costs, then add a fraction of my profit. So, and then if adding the value of those costs, adding the values of my profit, and then this phone I bought 100,000 with everything that I've added, and then the only markup price that I will use to sell this product is 150,000. So can government tell me to sell this for the rate that I bought this thing? Is it possible?
No.
So am I going to remain in the market?
Certainly not.
So it's not possible. So that law, by the, is it a high court of Lagos, federal court, you understand? It's dead on the arrival. It will not hold water. Because Nigerian market is not determined. Like go to bank. Bank are not sufficient in liquid to provide fund for you to even trade. Many businesswomen and men out there, what do? They source fund from elsewhere, even on the high rate without the commercial rate, to put into a business. And they need to make profit to pay off their it cannot hold water until when, and you should know also, you should also understand that Nigeria is a democracy. The democracy is a government that the market determines itself, and that is why what you sell in Lagos, the price cannot be unified in Abuja. Even look at just recent fuel subsidy that has been removed. The supplier in Lagos, as at then we were paying 480 naira. Abuja was paying 437 naira. Those in Kano, they were paying how much? 600. Later time, there was a addition, isn't it, in the fuel pump price. If you go to Benue State now, you buy fuel for 700 naira. You come to Abuja in some of the filling stations, they are buying fuel for 640. Can you say that you unified it when you have removed subsidy? As you remove subsidy, what did you tell the citizen? You told the citizen that now, as a government, I won't be able to pay for the subsidized rate for this price to be cheaped. Then somebody from Benue come to Abuja to buy fuel and take it to Benue State. And then you are expecting him to sell at the same rate in Abuja. Is that possible? Is it visible? And why you being the government, you have the knife, you have the yam, you slide it the way you want it, and the same government say, you come and do it at my pace. It's not possible. So these are the issues that we have when sometimes we do not express some of the issues that we have, and you go about and then you pass a judgment. It does not work that way. And that is why sometimes it becomes a policy somersaulting. You may apply some certain policy. That policy could work because it's not a reality. The reality in Nigeria today, the market force determines the sellable force. And that is why the supply chain determines the outcome of the value placed on that particular goods. And that is why there is what they call the forces of demand and supply. And if the higher the demand, the higher the price. The lower the demand, some cases, the higher the price or the lower the price. So in that case, so I would say, yes, if they tag and they will be able to subsidize whatever they want to do to make sure that, yes, average Nigerian live healthy and they will be able to get to market and buy products and service cheap, it will be fair for us. But to me, that judgment may not be realistic.
Many thanks, Mr. Ochai, for speaking with us. We've been speaking extensively with Mr. John Ochai, who has been speaking about Nigeria's economic reality and the implications for Nigerians. This is where we'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll delve further into the topic. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. And if you've just joined us, this is Business Points live on Global Television in the nation's capital, Abuja. And I have with me Mr. John Ochai, who is a financial analyst. And he's been speaking with me about Nigeria's prevailing economy and the implications for citizens. Before the break, I knew I was going to mention, you've spoken about, the removal of subsidy and all that. And I was going to mention about corruption. I want to know the role corruption plays in Nigeria's current economy and as regards food security and inflation and all that.
All right, thank you very much. I can say the corruption in this country is worse than cancer, if there is any other terms that could be used. Because corruption is not about money. It's way beyond that. Your action, if it's corrupted, definitely every other aspect is corrupted. Just for instance, they have an ethical models of how you apply your job as a journalist. Once you violate the rules, there are consequences. And when you are in a society, money that is meant for a specific reason is channeled to other sectors. That is corruption. It's even worse than, for instance, we know that health is one of the things that man guard for. And then money made for health is given to, let's say, construction, infrastructure, and let's say ministries of works is worse than, because thousands of people are going to die. But let me come back to the question you have asked, gearing towards corruption. Corruption in Nigeria is systemic. Because if I'm being the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria today, with my policy, I can say I cannot 100% wipe out, but I will wipe out corruption 99%. China was worse than Nigeria in terms of corruption. When John Yoo came, because there was a process on how you get into power, it's through coup. And when you plot a coup, you kill the other armies, the generals. But when he came, they thought that he's going to kill them because the modus of operandi in killing those generals is to invite them to a meeting and give them a tea. Once you take the tea, you go home, you know that you are no more alive. But at the end of the day, what did he do? He called them, they took the usual tea. They thought they are going home to die. He told them that, no, I'm not going to kill you, but choose a location where you want to live. I will pay you, but let's come together and build a nation. When Yoruba is traveling to a different direction, Hausa is traveling to different directions, and Igbos are traveling to different directions, it becomes a tripod that whoever that comes there drain what is in the system, because he doesn't see Nigeria as one. But he will be there as a figurehead, as, yes, I'm the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But the intention, there is an intent and there is intention. The intention build their intent of what they do, so they don't care about the general phenomenon. They care about the ambition, care about their people. That is why Hausa cannot accuse Yoruba. Yoruba cannot accuse Hausa. Hausa cannot accuse, because tribalism, nepotism will set in. And those things are corruption. So coming to the financial corruptions where major people focus their attentions on is that sometimes we vote money for a particular project. The money doesn't go back to that route. Those whom are saddled with those responsibilities consume those money. When they go to court and the system will tell you, come, let's do a plea bargain. Imagine I will steal 5 billion from the system, that you know that it's going to affect the economy and it's going to affect thousands out there. Government will tell me through the plea bargain law that is incubated to the system that I should just bring 2 billion out of the 5 million that I have stolen, and then your sins are forgiven. You don't live in such society, and you want people to change. People continue to replicate what their mentors have been done. Just like a game say that says, Nigeria belongs to all. Villa, a national cake. All of us will partook in the national cake. So people have this understanding that when you are being given opportunity, it's not going there to serve, but it's going to share your cake out of the system. And which it picture a bad image on our society until those who are saddled with responsibility, such as lawmaker, let them come with a proficient law, a law that will set as a precedence for the country, that will change the narratives and the mindset of the people, because the corruption of the mind is more bad than the physical corruptions of stealing money. Because when the mindset are groomed, when the mindset of the peoples are changed, and when the mindset begin to look on how we build our nation, because I don't see Nigeria as a nation, I see Nigeria as a country. Because a country, just like people come to live in a territorial entity that are doing whatever they feel like doing within those entities. So they don't care what happens to the next person. But when you are in a nation is a diverse people with intellectual knowledge that comes together to build a healthy living and continue to build on the existentiality to ensure that every citizen that live in that nation is benefiting from the system. And that is where you think about power, you think about education, you think about infrastructure, you think about the welfare of the citizen, you think about the good hospital that will not be flying to India, flying to Germany, flying to London, flying to France. Like if you have a head of the government in Nigeria today, once he's sick, he's being flown out of the country. We can't live in such kind of a society, because if the society is living fine, if the economic, if those sectors are fine, you won't get out of the country. We have had a different Maurice Johnson, former prime ministers of the UK. What happened? When he was caught with coronavirus, what did he do? He came out and told his nations that I have a coronavirus. Did he flew to another country? No. He remained, he was isolated, and he was treated, and he's healthy, and he came back to sit again. But when you come to our country, when the president is sick, they micromanage the sickness, and then when the minister is sick, they micromanage. When the governor is sick, they micromanage the information, and at the end of the day,
such cases, as I saw in the Guardian newspaper this morning, where it must have been page 6. I didn't read through, but the headline says that eminent presidents, eminent citizens, flag presidents, governors, and even CSOs, chief of staff, are fleeing the country, funding trips with public funds. I mean, funds. These are private trips, obviously, and they're with public funds. So you can imagine the level of corruption. Now, lastly, please, because of our time, and we do hope, to have you again on the program, speak extensively on this topic.
Thank you.
I mean, agriculture. As regards agriculture, we know how vital agriculture is, and we know how the importance. We know the percentage in agriculture that women play. I mean, according to reports, 70% of Nigeria's agriculture, it revolves around women. And but away from women, now this is because I attended a summit that is for women in agriculture who are calling for and pleading for better recognition and financing. And one of their challenge and the cry that their appeal is that they hear of fundings, they hear of policies, they hear of grants, they hear of loans, they hear that fertilizers are being released, and these are gatherings for grassroots farmers, grassroots agriculture-based people that are practical with this agriculture, and they're crying that they hear of these things. Some of them even see, but it doesn't get to them. How do we bridge this gap? This is also an issue of corruption. How do we get to that point where this money, these grants, now we're not just talking about people who are farmers by office, who know the language but don't have farmlands. How do these products now get to the people, grassroots farmers? How do we begin to bridge the gap to ensure that these people get adequate funding and recognition?
You see, you don't expect to practice the same culture and you expect different results. Most of the time, when these policies is dished out, those whom they trust with this money doesn't give the money back to the people that needed this money. A farmer in Gusau, a farmer in Sokoto, a farmer in Benue State, who is in need of this fund, they don't receive this fund. And when they give the money is siphoned. We have had a situation where we had what they call anchor borrowing. More of these monies was approved by the government, but were they effective monitoring? And these are things that we need to do. It's not about coming out, because I have been in so many committees where a lot of stuff was discussed, how more funds supposed to be given to specific people. Sometimes some organizations just go because they want benefit from the government. They put it in, present a very important paper. And when they present those papers to the government, when the government look at it, they say, wow. But the real intention behind those papers is not what is on the paper. It is their interest that they are thinking of. And once this money is being given, what happened? Did the government come back to it? And then, mind you, one of the reasons why we have those policies on something and most fund that is being given that is not getting to the grassroots is because there is no continuation in our system. When the president leaves power, even if you want to practice the same program, the next thing they will target with a different thing. We had it when we have a Millennium Development Goal, and then when Buhari came on board, he turned it from Millennium Development Goal to Sustainable Development Goal, you understand? And at the same time, then President Tinubu has stepped in, and now if you look at a different model of how he was able to come up with a name, which the name was not given. So I think the only reason why this money could not get to the bottom is because the same thing boiled down to the same thing we are treating earlier, which is corruption. Those whom you are giving money did not give back the agriculture, did not give back to those grassroots that are in need of the money when the siphon and the government is not asking questions. Upon when the government is asking questions, and just as I said earlier, if heads are rolling, then people will be held responsible for their misnomer.
Literally. We don't pray that heads roll literally. But thank you so much, Mr. John Ochai, for coming on the program. You've spoken extensively about Nigeria's economy and the challenges. Well, that's the much we can take on the program. Thank you so much for staying with us. Do make sure to join us tomorrow for another interesting segment on Business Point. I am Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching and see you again.